Hey guys, so welcome back to Indirect Knowledge. So tonight we have a very special tarot card reading, and this is for Emma. And Emma just wants to get perspective on one of her best friends and to see kind of like how he feels about her. It's often hard to understand really what goes through someone else's mind at any given time. Feelings, emotions, thoughts, opinions, all these kind of things shift on a dime. And so when we're talking about things in terms of a futuristic experience, it's really looking at things kind of in terms of what's the overall general consensus, like what is the big picture here that we need to get. So then once we understand what the big picture is, we can then zero down in on more specific topics or get more specific insight. And that's a lot of times, like when it comes to, being intuitive or getting information or understanding things, that's a lot of how the process really works, at least for me anyway. I'm talking from my own personal experiences here. Oftentimes, once I understand kind of the big picture and I can get a glimpse into what's really going on, sometimes the tarot helps me do that. Sometimes it's just my own intuition kicking in, or sometimes it's just the querent, that's the person asking for the tarot card reading, shedding some light on something, or bringing something else in. I can oftentimes, I've done things before, like with law enforcement, for example, where they've given me something like it could be a piece of an article of clothing or something that someone had. And just from the energy or what I pick up from it, I've been able to be of some use. I'm not going to say completely altogether useful to them, but I was able to give some perspective on it just from the things that I picked up psychically, intuitively. So sometimes, especially like doing readings like this, if someone gives me information, it sort of gives me sort of that same kind of insight into that, what's going on behind the scenes or that kind of thing. So anyways, that's just kind of my process on it. But let's find out, I know this person's name. I'm not, just for the sake of privacy and everything, both Emma's privacy and his privacy, I'm not going to actually say what his name is, but I am kind of like cluing in, I guess, on his energy. And Emma's as well, and kind of to get some perspective on kind of where he's at with things. You guys forgive me for messing with my face. It's just allergies here are a little bit tiring here. Also, I'm not in my normal space for doing these readings and all. I'm actually in one of the monks' quarters. It's just a simple little quarter here. So, if the backdrop or anything looks a little bit different than what it normally does, that's really it. They're doing some other activities and stuff in the kitchen area, preparing a feast and stuff, for doing some help for other things that we got going on. But so that's why I'm kind of off to myself here today, doing this for you guys. All right, so let's cut the cards and let's find out what's going on. I feel like I should cut that. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and put these out. Let's see where we're at here. Wow, this is interesting. So how does this person feel about you, Emma? Let's look at the past for a minute. We have the Knight of Pentacles, and I can't really show this as well because I'm in this little room. I'm just using a little bedside table that the monks use for putting like spiritual books on, Bible, that kind of thing. But you see there, it's a knight. Knight's about movement, moving things, and this is, of course, moving things forward foundationally, like setting things up, setting the stage for things to happen. Building a strong foundation so that it can be a strong future, so that the future is more guaranteed. That's the past as far as like where he's at with you. It's, doing things in the right way. He doesn't want to just go in half-hearted. This is a person that's stable. They want stability in their life, even in the relationships, especially in the relationships. Now, as far as the current situation goes with him and that, we have the King of Swords. So I'm just looking here and just getting us started here. Just out of the gate, we have all of these court cards. We had the Knight of Pentacles in the past. Now we move up to the King of Swords. Swords are mental, have to do with thoughts and different things. This king right here is really about having mental influence over others. But he really does make his decisions kind of in terms of black and white. What you see is what you get. What are the facts? Give me the facts. I'll make a decision. And from there, we'll move forward. And so that's, again, it's more about foundations. Kings are really about authority. Kings lay the foundation for things to happen. And that's what we're really getting. So even more of that. In the beginning, it's that earthy Capricorn energy, but Kings, they also have that grounded kind of attitude as well. And it's about authority. And this particular case, it's that mental authority. So this King is very much about fairness. So, what is fair? That's what this person is kind of deciding. They want equality, balance, that kind of thing. He's a very logical King, very reasonable, very rational thinker. So you're not going to really be able to influence this person that you might care about, this good friend of yours, so much on the emotional level as much as you will on kind of the practical level. That's, making a solid argument for why things should be the way they are. That's kind of this person's mind, is they're sort of more of a practical type person. They don't want to just go willy-nilly or half-hearted into something, or they don't want to just trust their emotions altogether. They're very much focused more on the what you see is what you get. Now, where is the future taking us? I'm calibrated to about 3 months out. Well, the card in this particular case is the Queen of Swords. I'm picking up about 2 months out or so with this particular one, so a little bit closer in terms of the future, closer to us. But the Queen of Swords, we had the King of Swords. He's about the authority. She's really about the influence factor. So in the near future and all, you lay a solid practical thing. You work with him, connect with him on a practical level. In the near future and all, you'll be able to wield influence over this relationship, and you can kind of make it how you want it to be. I mean, you'll get a greater, deeper perspective on it, and then things will happen, in a very positive way for you. Now, this person is, they're very calculated in how they make decisions and in the way that they operate. As time goes on, though, like this person will be able to have a more of an influence over you. You'll start to see the benefits of being with this type of person, and that will be vice versa. This person will also see the benefits of being with you and the value, the logical value anyway, that you bring to their life. And that's what they will really appreciate, being in a relationship with you. Let's look at really the energy surrounding that King of Swords, though. That's a present moment. Right now, it's just here. Sometimes we refer to this as sort of the nightmare card. It's where you wake up from that bad dream. And you notice it's a 9 there. So we're not quite to the end of the chapter. We're just kind of like we're the last 10th of the way there. We've just hit maybe the last 10th of the book. And so we're not completely finished. We don't really know what the outcome is going to be. We have our suspicions. We have our doubts, our disbelief, and things. That comes from the negativity or the critical thinking, or letting that part of ourself psychologically affect us in a way that is a little scary, or in a way that is a little uncomfortable. And so it has sort of that connotation there. So sometimes this card, brings up fears, nightmares. It's that kind of a connotation. But, just from where we're at and what we're seeing and all, you have to, at the end of the day, just realize it's only a nightmare. It's only a bad dream, nothing to worry about. You are basically in charge of what comes about as a result of it. And you have time right now in order to, decide which direction to take it in. As far as where you're at energy-wise and everything, kind of where your mind is with this relationship and what you would like to see with it, we have, and this is really an interesting card to come up in this reading. We have the 5. 5 is about change. We get a lot of change with this and all. And then this is Swords. So it's changing our mind mentally, mental changes and different things. But this is also a card of victory. So it's like getting what we want. And so that's really what you want. You want to be able to get what you want with this. And the way of doing that is often a mental victory first before things turn into a tangible reality, where you start seeing things on the outside. But it's about this change and getting what you want. The thing to be careful with when this card normally comes up, it's sort of like this winning at any cost. And if you're winning at any cost, sometimes you have to ask yourself if what you're wanting and what you're fighting for and what you're winning or trying to get victory over is really worth all the effort and energy and all that kind of mental fortitude and things that you put into it. So that's something that you really should probably think about ahead of the curve instead of after the curve. Otherwise, you might be a little displeased with the results. Maybe what you want is not necessarily exactly what you think maybe what you think you want isn't necessarily what you actually want. So you need to really figure that part out. That's what this card is really explaining. It's what it's really going into detail about. What is the outcome here? Like, where is all of this leading us to? It's a really good question, and that's our outcome card, and it's not what you might expect. It's not what I expected anyway. The interesting thing, though, is that, again, it's a 5, but this time it's a 5 in the major arcana, which 5 we talked about is about changes and different things like that happening. And when we see this is a Hierophant card. It's sometimes referred to as the Pope card. It's a very spiritual card, but this is about, this Pope card here is really about ritual. It's about tradition. It's about beliefs. It's about the foundation of beliefs. So it's about like our culture, our history, things that make up our core identity, the ideas and the structures and the belief structures and the things that were imparted to us as children and that we've kind of grown up with and kind of harnessed in that. And it's just who we are, in terms of how we identify. And that's what this here is really all about. So when we see that this card comes up, oftentimes it's about the spiritual we're talking about love and all these other concepts that kind of juxtapose the other ideas of, practical reasoning and doing certain things in a certain way to get a certain result, weighing things out in terms of black and white, making the best decision possible. Give me the facts, I'll give you the answer, that kind of thing. This is more about like, when the Hierophant comes up, it's really about us. I don't want to say clinging on to the past or clinging on to our beliefs, but here's the thing, what's really great about the Hierophant card. Say, for example, like you were in a situation, and let's just hypothetically say that your whole world fell apart and that the people in your life, people that you're nearest and dearest and closest to, were no longer in your life. Let's just say, it's a bad thought to think maybe, but play with me for just a moment on this idea. So if that happened and you were by yourself and you found yourself alone, what would you naturally want to do, right? You would want to find people, resources that are in alignment with your beliefs, in alignment with your core identity. And so if somebody, say for example, like you're Baptist, and that was your religious belief, you might want to go and find and connect with other people that are Baptists because you would have some commonality, some common ground, something to associate yourself with them. And then that would create some kind of a bond, If you were Catholic, same thing. You might want to go and, meet up with some other Catholics or something, I'm just using this as spiritual things, So people tend to gravitate toward things that are similar to them and that they have not only a fondness for, but sort of a connection with. And so it's about being connected to the things that make us up who we are, or what our beliefs are, and these kind of things, and how we think, and so on and so forth. When you see people diverge from that, and you see people like go in a different direction in terms of their thinking, their ideology, their religion, their spiritual beliefs, all these kind of things, oftentimes what you see is the people in their life that were in their life close-knit before, they don't really, they're less accepting of this person now because this person they're changing, they're in a different light. They're not the same person. They don't share the same common values or the same kind of beliefs and things like that we do. So they're less tolerant of this person. And so there can be some kind of like I don't want to say it's like a non-acceptance, or they're just less acceptance of that person and all. And it can seem very like painful sometimes to people. But with this, it's not the situation at all, like with this reading. With this, it's about really the, understanding who you are and who this person is and understanding the differences and then accepting that person regardless of your beliefs, regardless of your thinking, your core and everything like that. And hoping that this person and expecting this person also to accept you, but understanding kind of the psychology behind how things work. If you guys shared a lot of commonality as far as like your upbringing and your growing up and your thoughts and the way in which you operated, then that wouldn't be really a barrier. If it isn't the case, then that could be somewhat of a barrier for this relationship as far as moving it forward and doing things on that end. Just something to really more or less be aware of. But when this comes up in sort of this particular position where it's actually like the outcome, oftentimes it's about like, focusing, basically realizing that, especially with this reading where you have a lot of those practical cards up front and a lot of the conflict and things as far as things in the mind. A lot of that conflict could be because there's a difference or something that's not altogether on the same page as far as this person's past, this person's history, their beliefs, there's a difference there. And accepting that might be one thing on your end, but then you have to understand that not everybody is so accepting. And so that could be kind of a situation that you find yourself into. So it's about really, this is really to help you to see, okay, or at least understand the situation better and say, okay, I want to understand this person better. We may be able to get along on the practical level and all, but when it comes to deeper, higher thinking thoughts and ideologies and this and that, and tradition and beliefs and what's important, and if this person doesn't already have that, or is even willing to have those kind of values and stuff like that, it may pose some challenges for the relationship later on. So things to keep in mind. What's really the answer to this? It's this Knight of Cups. Cups is the only relationship card that I really see here. Cups are all about relationships. The Knight of Cups is really about movement or energy. So it's moving this relationship forward, come hell or high water, as the old thing goes. But what is this Knight of Cups all about? It's about following your heart. In the end, that's the advice that this gives you. If you want to be with someone, if you want someone that shares some of the same common values that you believe and that you can relate to, and that loves you in the same way, then really at the end of the day, it's really about this emotional movement and following your heart, going where your intuition guides you, and following that side. So there's some conflict here, like in the beginning, when it comes to what you see is what you get, following suit and things like that. We have a lot of those swords early on in your reading. That's things about the mind and mental and stuff like that. But happiness, as far as like where you're at, is really going to come in when you start to actually do the opposite, instead of just the critical thinking or the rationality and the reasoning, all these kind of things. When you actually follow your heart, that's when things will really start to turn around, and you find the right person to be with, if this person isn't already right for you. But you'll start to see things in a wholly different way. So anyways, I hope this helps. It's overall a really great reading. It gives a lot of insight into this situation with this person and kind of where they're at, and also kind of where you're at, and then what sort of the solutions or the obstacles and the barriers and things like that that you might face. If you have any other questions, please reach out to me. I'm always here for you as your tarot coach. And that goes for all of you guys watching. Thanks so much for tuning into Indirect Knowledge. If you guys haven't already done so, please consider subscribing to the channel and then hitting the bell notification when we come on. If you have questions you'd like to get answered in real time, if I have time, if I'm not inundated with too many readings and whatnot, and my time permits, I'll be happy to answer your questions and things and do that on live air and everything. Otherwise, you guys can reach me via email. I'll have my email in the description below this video. And as always, thanks for tuning into Indirect Knowledge. If you guys want to help and support the monks in our mission here, spreading love for God to others and doing the works that we do, and the service projects and everything, you can do that very easily just by going helpbydonating.com. Give whatever donation is in your heart. We thank you in advance for that, and it really helps us with our basic maintenance and things. We take a vow of poverty, so we're not really so much driven materially, but the donations and things that people give from the heart really do a lot of good, and they get out into the community, and that stuff, it multiplies the good. And that's what we're all about. So if you want to support that, just go to helpbydonating.com and you can do that. As far as everything else goes, I'm so happy that I'm able to do this service and back on the air tonight, been able to deliver some of these. Had quite a few readings today and all. Sometimes I get a little inundated with these, you guys, and that's great. I mean, I absolutely love it. If you guys need anything, though, please reach out to me. I'm always available for you guys. Much love, many blessings. See you guys on the next episode of Indirect Knowledge.